So there's some breaking news coming in the last few minutes. We're getting in a jiffy, and we have BOG revoking the licenses of 23 savings and loans companies, and the names have been published over there. Now, these insolvent institutions whose licenses have been revoked include Ascent Financial Services Limited, and Adom Savings and Loans Limited, All Time Finance Limited, Alpha Capital Savings and Loans Limited, ASN Financial Services Limited, CDH Savings and Loans Limited, Commerce Savings and Loans Limited, Crest Finance House Limited, Dream Finance Company Limited, Express Savings and Loans Company Limited, First African Savings and Loans Company Limited, First Allied Savings and Loans Company Limited, First Ghana Savings and Loans Company Limited, First Trust Savings and Loans Limited, Global Access Savings and Loans Company Limited, Ideal Finance Limited, IFS Financial Services, Legacy Capital Savings and Loans, Midland Savings and Loans Company. And Midland, if you've been following the news, has been in the news for some bad reasons. Sterling Financial Services Limited, Unicredit Savings and Loans Limited, Women's World Banking Savings and Loans Company Limited. These are the licenses, the 23 savings and loans companies that the Bank of Ghana has revoked their licenses. You may be aware that when they revoked the licenses of some microfinance companies, they gave the indication that that wasn't going to be the last time we're seeing that, and that they were going into the savings and loans companies. Perhaps this is what they've been talking about. And the names of the 23 companies that have just lost their licenses: Access Financial Services Limited, Adom Savings and Loans Limited, All Time Finance Limited, Alpha Capital Savings and Loans Limited, ASN Financial Services Limited, CDH Savings and Loans Limited, Commerce Savings and Loans Limited, Crest Finance House Limited, Dream Finance Company Limited, Express Savings and Loans Company Limited, First African Savings and Loans Company Limited, First Allied Savings and Loans Company Limited, First Ghana Savings and Loans Company Limited, First Trust Savings and Loans Company Limited, Global Access Savings and Loans Company Limited, GN Savings and Loans, Ideal Finance Limited, IFS Financial Services, Legacy Capital Savings and Loans, Midland Savings and Loans Company Limited, Sterling Financial Services Limited, Unicredit Savings and Loans, and Women's World Banking Savings and Loans Company Limited. The 23 savings and loans companies that have lost their licenses to the Bank of Ghana. So the Bank of Ghana just issued that statement, and the statement the Bank of Ghana issued has explained why these people have lost, or these companies have lost their licenses. And you may be aware that there are some companies in there who have been in the news for some wrong reason. Midland Company, Savings and Loans Company, has been in the news for some wrong reasons, if you've been following developments in the last few days. And that statement that was issued by the Bank of Ghana short while ago, the Bank of Ghana has, with effect from today, revoked the licenses of 23 insolvent savings and loans companies and finance house companies, and says these actions were taken pursuant to Section 123, Section 1 of the Banks and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Act 2016, Act 930, which requires the Bank of Ghana to revoke the license of a bank and or specialized deposit taking institution where the Bank of Ghana determines that the institution is insolvent. The Bank of Ghana has also appointed Mr. Eric Nipa as a receiver for the specified institutions in line with Section 123, subsection 2 of Act 930. The revocation of the licenses of these institutions has become necessary because they are insolvent, even after a reasonable period within which the Bank of Ghana has engaged with them in the hope that they would be recapitalized by their stakeholders to solvency. It is the Bank of Ghana's assessment that these institutions have no reasonable prospects of recovery and that their continued existence poses severe risk to the stability of the financial system and to the interest of their depositors. In line with the government's commitment to protect depositors' funds, the government has made funds available to enable the receiver pay depositors after their claims are validated. The receiver will in due course make an announcement with regards to when and where payments will be made. The receiver will also indicate documents required from depositors to facilitate the validation of claims and orderly payments of validated deposits. Other creditors of the failed institutions will be settled by the receiver upon validation of their claims and to the extent that the receiver is able to realize value from the remaining assets of these institutions. The Bank of Ghana has also, with effect from today, revoked the licenses of 2 non-bank financial institutions, namely Express Funds International Limited, it's a remittance company, and Ghana Leasing Company Limited, which is a leasing company, which are insolvent and have been inactive for a number of years. This action is pursuant to Section 7 of the Non-Bank Financial Institutions Act 2008, Act 774, which mandates the Bank of Ghana to revoke the license of a non-bank financial institution licensed under that act if that institution, among other things, ceases to carry on business. The Bank of Ghana has notified the Registrar of Companies of this revocation, the revocation of these 2 licenses, and has requested that the registrar commences winding up proceedings against these companies under the Bodies Corporate Act 1963, Act 180, which is the Bodies Corporate Official Liquidations Act. So this is the statement that the Bank of Ghana issued, and it's also giving us a background to this whole thing. And I'll read excerpts of that background. It says, as part of its efforts to restore confidence in the banking and specialized deposit-taking sectors, the Bank of Ghana embarked on a clean-up exercise in August 2017 to resolve insolvent financial institutions whose continued existence posed risk to the interest of depositors. A comprehensive assessment of the savings and loans and finance house subsectors carried out by the Bank of Ghana in the last few years identifies serious challenges. Now, the levels of capital held by some savings and loans companies and finance house companies were in violation of the minimum regulation capital required by Act 930. This made it precarious for these institutions to continue to undertake the business of specialized deposit-taking institutions, given the risk they posed to their depositors and other counterparties to whom they were exposed directly or indirectly. And it says excessive risk taking without the required risk management function to manage the risk exposure is one of the reasons. The use of depositors' funds to finance personal or related party projects or businesses on terms that were not commercial, leading to little or no income accruing to the relevant savings and loans companies or finance house companies, and thereby compounding their liquidity challenges, were also reasons why their licenses have been revoked. Monitor events and will bring you updates of this whole revocation of the 23 licenses of the 23 savings and loans companies. And of course, if you look at that statement, it also says that persistent regulatory breaches involving non-compliance with Bank of Ghana's prudential rules and failure to implement Bank of Ghana on-site examination recommendation is also a reason, and says all efforts by the Bank of Ghana to get the stakeholders and directors of the affected institutions to rectify the above lapses, especially the significant capital deficiencies, yielded no positive results. Consequently, the financial position of the institutions has continued to deteriorate, leading to their insolvency, with some of them ceasing operations and closing their offices to depositors, while those currently in operation are unable to pay depositors and other creditors at all or fully. So we are actually aware that the depositors will get their funds. They will be refunded because there is a receiver who's been appointed by the Bank of Ghana to take care of depositors. So those of you who are saving in these 23 savings and loans whose licenses have been revoked, you shouldn't have any fear, because there's a receiver who would actually refund your monies to you. But so that you may be aware, I want to go through the list again. The 23 savings and loans companies that have lost their licenses just this afternoon, and the Bank of Ghana has confirmed that: Ascent Financial Services Limited, Adom Savings and Loans Limited, All Time Finance Limited, Alpha Capital Savings and Loans Limited, ASN Financial Services Limited, CDH Savings and Loans Limited, Commerce Savings and Loans Limited, Crest Finance House Limited, Dream Finance Company, Express Savings and Loans Company, First African Savings and Loans Company, First Allied Savings and Loans Companies. They are part of the 23 savings and loans companies that have lost their licenses. You have Crest Finance House Company, Dream Finance Company, Company Limited, Express Savings and Loans Company, First African Savings and Loans Company, First Allied Savings and Loans Company, First Ghana Savings and Loans Company, First Trust Savings and Loans Company, Global Access Savings and Loans Company, GN Savings and Loans Limited, and Ideal Finance Limited, IFS Financial Services, Legacy Capital Savings and Loans Company, Midland Savings and Loans Company, Sterling Financial Services, Unicredit Financial Services, Unicredit Savings and Loans Limited, Women's World Banking Savings and Loans Company Limited. When the microfinance companies were folded up, or their licenses were revoked, you had some financial analysts actually telling us that we have not seen the last of it. Perhaps this is the reason why they were making that point. Now you've seen 23 savings and loans companies. We are yet to verify if this is all that there is in the Bank of Ghana's exercise of sanitizing the system. If there is more, we'll definitely find out from the Bank of Ghana. We'll also be getting in the next few hours some analysis from financial experts or financial analysts on what this means to the financial sector. You recall that the financial analysts have been calling for this sector cleanup, and they say this is even coming rather too late, but never late ever late than never. But if this is the last, we'll definitely know in the next few hours as the events unfold. We're just getting this from the Bank of Ghana, and we'll get more. This is not the last of it. We'll be monitoring events, and we'll bring you all the updates on in our subsequent bulletins.